Hi, I'm Rodney A. Brooks. Welcome to RodneyABrooks.com. Today we're talking to Mr. Eric Bailey, who is founder and CEO of Bailey Wealth Advisors, which is based in Silver Spring, Maryland. The dumbest thing you ever had somebody or seen somebody do when it comes to stocks and investing and saving? And you could give me multiple answers because I'm sure you've seen multiple things.
Yeah, I think the biggest mistake people make, and particularly I would say our culture, and I think your book speaks to this, which is as a result of the calamity of the fall of the Freedmen's Bank, our trust and confidence in the system for almost a century was not there. So we always wanted safety, okay? So I'd say even if you look, well, we're in the third phase of the fourth major revolution of man, okay? The first was fire, okay? The second was the printing press. The third was industrial production, and we all evolved from an agricultural economy to an industrial economy. The fourth revolution was technology. That opened up in the late 90s where we got the internet, et cetera, et cetera. Well, a lot of our folks, particularly in corporate America around, most of their 401ks were in, and even the government employees, was in the fixed fund. We were satisfied with the 4% while the tech boom was exploding, okay? And we were fortunate we had a contract with Howard University for their 403B program, and we saw tons of people sitting around with money in the fixed account while the equities market was averaging 20, 25, 30%. Well, the second phase of that technological revolution happened in 2007, where the ability to compress a lot of data into a small chip, which by 2007, everybody had a cell phone, okay? But where were we? Still on the sidelines. Now we're in the third phase of that revolution, which is AI, and we're still hesitant to get in the game. So I would say not on an individual basis, but collectively, people not understanding that long term, if the business is business, growth has to happen. And if growth happens, then you'd like to be with the growth as opposed to sitting on the sideline.
Okay. So give me 3 tips for somebody, say a millennial just starting out with a new job and planning for the future, and then give me 3 tips for, and they could be anywhere on the financial planning realm, 3 tips for somebody who is about to go into retirement.
Well, for the younger people, I think the first basic tip is save some money. You know, this thing is a brick by brick kind of an arrangement. So you're not going to get rich overnight. You know, there are very few Kardashians and, you know, tech boom people. So, hey, you have to put money away systematically. So at a minimum, if you're employed by an employer that offers a 401k, put up to the match that they match you. In an ideal world, I mean, I just had this conversation with my son the other night because he's taking a new job. And we were going through his expenses, and it's going to be in New York. But I told him, I said, hey, look, you need to be able to have a 10% profit margin. So you need to be able to save 10% of whatever your gross is. So whether you put 5% in the 401k because they match up to 5 and you save the other 5, but make sure you're profitable. Save the profits and invest the profits first. For people that are about to retire, I would say ensure that you get an analysis done of what retirement will really look like for you. Because what happens, people get these, I guess you call them automatic stuff that says, okay, you're about to retire, your Social Security should be X, here's what your 401k is, you're fine. But they don't know how much you spend. So how could they tell you whether you're fine or not, okay? They haven't made any assumptions about inflation or taxes or anything. So I would say definitely find a financial planner at a minimum. You may not need a wealth manager, but someone that's going to give you an objective look at what the landscape's going to look like over your first 5 years, because the first 5 years of your retirement are critical, because not only are you dealing with the emotional piece of not working, particularly for those folks that are in our age group. Most of us have been working since we were 15, because we didn't have the luxury of not working. So in most instances, you've probably been working at least 50 years. So there's going to be a separation anxiety on what do I do? And some people say, it doesn't matter. I'm not doing anything. But then after the first 5 years, now it's like, I'm spending more money than I thought I was. But so first thing is get the analysis done that looks at the first 5 years, and then project it out from there to give yourself a real good feel of the what ifs.
Okay, and so what is a mistake that someone makes, a common mistake someone makes who is about to go into retirement? Is it that not planning for the non-financial part of it, or is there a financial thing?
I think the financial part, particularly in our generation, that we're not our parents. Our parents were dogmatic that they were going to pay their mortgage off before they retired. There was no way, no how they were going to go into retirement. But for us, because we had the luxury of credit that our parents didn't have, and we've seen a number of interest rate decline periods that made it attractive to go in, refinance, take some equity out, but you just made that 30 years, 40 years, and then you made it 50 years. So the reality is, the common mistake is you're going into retirement, you're going to have a mortgage, and property taxes and the insurance on your property are not going to be level. The interest and principal payments will be, but most people don't factor in property taxes are going to rise. They have to. Insurance costs are going to rise. They have to. Your health insurance costs are going to rise. The thing I'm seeing particularly for our generation is no one thought about long-term care, okay? There's tons of people out here now that are in their 60s and 70s who can't qualify for it, but they're now seeing with their parents or Uncle Joe or somebody that this thing can run through your money in a hurry if somebody hangs around and needs the attention and care. So I would say long-term care is the big sort of elephant that's under the rug that most people don't discover until it's right up on it.
So you recommend long-term care insurance?
Some people can self-insure.
Uh-huh.
So as long as you can identify that that's a risk, and I can allocate some capital to that, maybe I can self-insure. If I can't, then maybe I just want to hedge my bet, So do I have enough equity in the house? Well, am I going to be able to get it? Because I'm not working, so the bank going to lend me the money. The point is, have a plan.
Okay.
And if you can afford it, then, of course, you can transfer the risk to an insurance company.
Okay, so we talked about mortgages. Are you one of the people who says pay off your mortgage before you retire, or it depends?
It depends. I'm a financial person, so and I get a lot of people say, I want to pay off my mortgage, before I retire, or they're retired. They say, I'm tired of paying this mortgage. Let's just take some of the portfolio, pay the mortgage off. I said, well, let's do the numbers, okay? If your mortgage is 3% and you're in a 30% tax bracket, well, the government's subsidizing 30% of the 3%, which means your net cost for the mortgage is 2.1. the money you would use to pay the mortgage off is earning 5%. So why would I use money that's earning 5% to extinguish a debt that's only costing me 2.1? I'm out earning that. So in that instance, no, doesn't make sense. And then once you pay the mortgage off, now you're going to be complaining that you don't have any tax deduction. So your tax bill goes up. So the cost of paying that off is higher than having the capital available to do it if it became an emergency.
Okay, thank you. William, Calvin, any questions while we have Eric?
No, he was informative.
I guess I'd be curious to see what's the youngest couple you've seen come into your office. Like how early are you seeing couples ready to have that conversation?
Well, this is a new era for my firm, anyway, the young people. I've historically avoided young people. And even the young people who I call young, 40s or late 30s that have worked for me, they bring people and say, hey, look, I want you to meet with this person. And they know the first question I'm going to ask is, well, how old are they? Right. If they're under 50, I don't want to talk to them. They say, what's the big deal? I said, people over 50 realize the sun is going to set, okay? There's more road behind them than's in front of them. So there's a higher sense of urgency to get this right. Young people think they got time. They think, yeah, well, maybe we get to that later, you know? And so no matter how impactful your work is, they are not as committed to the future because they can't see that far. If they're in their 30s, you can't tell a 30-year-old about what it's going to be like when they get in their 60s. They just can't see it. A 50-year-old, you've seen friends die, family members die, you've seen people retire and not be in the right position. You've seen it close up. You know, I'm not going to get a do-over here. I got to get this right. But again, for young people, I say start saving as early as you can and invest as early as you can. But only invest after you've built your emergency fund because you're going to need an emergency fund because your car's going to break down, you're going to lose your job, somebody's going to hurt their ankle playing basketball, you're going to need it. So your emergency fund should be at least 3 months worth of living expenses. Once you have that, now you can start investing.
Okay. Well, thank you, Eric, for coming in and visiting.
Always a pleasure.
Okay.
Always a pleasure.
Great
Hopefully I didn't talk too much.
No.